Today, I'm going to talk to you about inside sales versus outside sales. Pros, cons, examples of each. Inside sales, you are selling to customers through the phone and the internet, with your computer, on your video conferencing, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, working out of your company office location or your home office location. WFH, work from home. I know that that's what all of you guys want nowadays, but if you're like me, you like to turn up to your customer's place of business or the residence, face to face, confront them, hand them your business card and say, I'm an outside sales rep, otherwise known as field sales, and I'm here to sell to you in person. I have sold millions of dollars of software as an inside sales rep, and I've also sold tens of thousands of dollars in software as an in-person outside sales rep because I've gone on site to company HQ locations. And today I'm going to outline the specific pros and cons of each so that you can come away from this video deciding which path is best for you, how to start in inside sales, go to outside sales, and which specific jobs are best suited to each of these career paths. If you do sales for a living like I do, hit the like button now. As we think about inside sales, I imagine that this is what a lot of you guys want to do, because what I've observed is people want to work from home. They don't want to be bothered with a commute, with having to do all of this politicking with colleagues. They just want to sit in their pajamas from the comfort of home, on the couch, with the dog, Netflix, PGA on the background, sit there, do enough work to get by, get your paycheck. I'm here to tell you it's fine if you want to do that, and I think some companies are leaning into this trend because the companies are thinking, well man, we could put all of our employees in these cubies, or we could just let them work from home because that's what all of them want, and maybe we could be more efficient as an organization and not have to pay for all this office space. And that's a trend I've observed ever since 2020. Companies are realizing people don't want to be in the office as much, and we can still be efficient and productive as a company with people working remote. So that's why they're investing more in these inside sales reps. Imagine a call center with a bunch of employees working in a big room with headsets on, but just imagine each of those employees, rather than going into that building, they're just sitting out of their own homes, and they don't have to be bothered with a lot of the commutes and the expenses, and they can be more happy, satisfied as an employee. So as you think about you as the sales rep, if that's where the ball is moving, if that's where the trend, one of the main pros of that to you is that you are more efficient as a sales rep because you can sit there in your home, you don't have to worry about traveling, and you can call upon 50 to 100 different companies. If you look at your calendar 9 to 5, you have dozens of call blocks where you could set up 15, 30-minute calls with a different company every hour of the day. So you could meet with 10, 15 different companies. Meanwhile, an outside sales rep who has to actually sell on site in person, if they have to show up to company office locations, logistically, there are challenges because geographically, companies aren't just all sitting next to each other. Unless you're in a really big city or you're doing, let's say, door-to-door sales, selling solar panels, you can walk through a residential area, but for B2B sellers, it's not as efficient, and that is a major pro of inside sales. That's what I love being an account executive, sales development rep, is I could just call on all of these different companies, and I didn't have to really worry about going and ever meeting them in person because it was all through the phone and the internet. Another pro of inside sales is that you can BS your way through a lot of meetings. When you have an important meeting, you can have notes up on a separate screen. So if you don't really do a whole lot of preparation like I do, you can sit there with your camera facing the customer, you share your screen, and then you got another screen with some notes over here that has all of your prep work, and it's much easier to actually take notes. So being an inside sales rep, you can really BS your way through a lot of meetings, which is nice, but the con of doing the inside sales is that it's actually going to be a bit harder to sell because it's more challenging to build authentic relationships with customers when you are just reliant on this digital communication, because you can only see the face, you can't really see their body, and so much of communication is actually nonverbal. They say 70% of communication isn't even the words you say, it's the body gestures, the tone, pitch, inflection, and until we have Mark Zuckerberg and the metaverse come out where we can feel like we're in the same room as someone to the point where you can smell that they didn't put deodorant on, you can smell their bad breath and still act like you don't feel it because you're trying to sell them, it's going to be harder to build those relationships, which is something to keep in mind. And another con is that it's really easy to fall into bad habits. In 2020, when I was first forced to work fully remote, I was an inside sales rep regardless. I just completely forgot about my morning routine because I woke up in my bed, I walked 5 feet to my home office, 5 feet to the bathroom, 5 feet over here to the kitchen, went to sleep, repeated, and you just you kind of get lost from the world. And I think it's hard to grow as a person trapped inside the four walls of your house, which is inherent if you are an inside sales rep and always work fully remote. So definitely important consideration. Meanwhile, outside sales, you got your business card, which is pretty cool. The main pro is that it's easier to sell because when you are in person, it's much simpler to build that relationship. You can speak to that customer about the memories. Maybe you met up with them at an industry event. Maybe you took them to a sporting event. Maybe you just showed up to their office or took them to lunch. They remember that because those in-person memories, when you're actually, it's tangible, you're there, you remember the smells, you remember the sounds. And when you're just on the video, it's hard to build that connection. Another pro of outside sales is that if you like to travel, it could be perfect for you. I knew a rep at my previous company, an enterprise sales rep, based in Utah. The company sent him out to New York to live on Wall Street so that he could live within a walking distance of all these big banks, so he could just show up to their office because they knew the larger the sales cycle, the larger the deal, the more necessary it is to be in person because at that level, it's all about trust, and it's easier to build trust when you are in person, on site, at your customer's place of residence or business. So certainly things to keep in mind. Con of outside sales is that if you're traveling a lot, it's easy to eat like trash. So similar to working from home, you can start to not care as much if you're always on the road selling to pharmacies, for example. You're eating fast food, you're living out of hotels. You lose sight of those daily habits that you might have more time for if you don't have to worry about driving around or doing any sort of commutes. And another con of outside sales is that you can get destroyed in real time. So imagine door knocking, trying to sell solar panels. You have been in a house where some magazine sales rep has showed up to your door. You purposely shut the door, you lock it, and you act like you're not home because you don't even want to talk to them. So imagine if you're in that person's shoes and you have angry people that are stressed out that are like, why are you here? For example, I did B2B sales. I showed up to a customer's HQ. I wanted to drop off some gift baskets to a VP. I had shorts and a t-shirt on because I didn't think I was going to go on site that day. And as soon as I walked in, she looked at me and was like, no chance you're getting in here. You're not dressed appropriately. So when you're in person, it's much more direct confrontation than it is if you're inside sales, just calling through the phone. You're 100 miles away from that person rejecting you. It's much easier to let that go. Whereas in person, you feel like, you know what, there's actually could be a problem here. If I keep at this and keep overcoming objections, they're either going to call the police or they're going to try and fight me if they're bigger than me. So those are overall how I think about inside sales versus outside sales. The best career path for inside sales is tech sales, and the best career path for outside sales is tech sales. And let me tell you the reason why. As we think about technology and software, we know that tech is the future. So you're in a modern career field. You don't have to worry about AI disrupting your job. You don't have to worry about there not being product market fit unless you're at a bad company. You don't have to worry about it not being in demand. Software, tech, it is here to stay. It is the future. It's a performance-based career. And as you start as a sales development rep like I did, you are an inside sales rep. My first year, I made $77,000 as a sales development rep, and then I promoted multiple times to an account executive, and the higher up the ranks you go, you start to slowly transition to more of a hybrid outside sales rep because you have fewer and fewer companies, accounts you're working with. And like I described earlier, you got to go to New York. You got to go to where customers are because you're only working with 5 to 10 companies, and trust is super important. My final year as an account executive, I made $302,000. So imagine starting as an inside sales rep, moving to a hybrid inside sales, outside sales. If I would have kept moving up, I'd move to outside sales. And there's so much money in it as well. So if you're interested in learning more about what tech sales is, why it might be right for you, and how to actually get started, I've linked my free intro course below. I am the tech sales instructor at Course Careers, where I have helped hundreds of folks break into tech sales without any degrees, no experience. So if you found value in today's video, I promise you'll find 10 times more value in that free intro course down below. Let me know what questions you have in the comments. You can also go connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm super receptive there. If you want to have a conversation with me, I'm an open door. And once again, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel now if you haven't already, and I will talk to you in the next video.